twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous line o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the and the home of the that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the and the home of the
Before the American Revolution, our founding fathers considered themselves slaves of the empire. And then Thomas Jefferson read John Locke. And he said that our freedom was not given us by the king. It was an unalienable right given us by God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. The founders understood that, and this is why, at the end of the Declaration of Independence, they put, "We pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." They said they would die before they be slaves. I won't just die before I be a slave. I'll kill before I be one. So all y'all out there to say you have no choice, what the founders showed you. It was Patrick Henry that said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And on that fateful night when George Washington had to cross the Delaware River in the ice and the snow, or the American Revolution would be lost, they said, "General, what are the passwords?" He said, "Victory or death. Either we're successful tonight or we all die." That's the idea of a free man. And I am a free man. So all you out there that believes that someone has to give you your freedom, you're admitting that you're a slave. If you come try to take my freedom away, God has given me the right to defend myself. And I got two things that'll get you off of me. That is Jesus and my 38. Slaves is a choice.
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from, why you turned this way? From a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman. Welcome to tonight's live stream. Happy Monday, you guys. Y'all know I was itching, like literally and figuratively. I really was itching. I have been itching to go live since last Wednesday. And actually, no, since last Monday, because I went off the grid as of Wednesday. And so I am here. I am back. I am feeling really good. Y'all, let me tell you something. I am new to so many things, like experiencing things that I guess some women are like, you 10 years late, you should have been thought about that. But as you guys know, or maybe you don't know, if you've been following me for a while, so many of you guys have been a part of my perimenopausal journey, meaning, listen, perimenopause like had me in a chokehold. Okay, it had me out here chubby and swolled up in the face. And then I went through this really, really bad season of hormonal acne that kicked my butt so bad that I was like, you win. You win. I am just destined to just be bumpy faced and inflamed until I get past what I guess 55 or 60. I don't know. And so I have been on a deliberate glow up journey since last November when I finally said I've had enough. You are not going to steal my joy, perimenopause. You're not going to have me out here, just full of anxiety and being in a bad mood. Like, it's one thing to be in a bad mood, but I said I can't be in a bad mood and be chubby and sleepy because I'm not getting any rest, right? And I'm hot and sweaty, and it wasn't cool. And so part of that journey I had put on my bucket list. I said, okay, I changed my diet back in November. It'll be a year in November when I just decided to do a calorie deficit. I started working out, and then I started dermatologically. Is that a word, dermatologically? I think that is. Um to deal with the hormonal acne and all of the fluctuations. I want to give a shout out to one of my subscribers, Donovan. What is your woman's name? She is the one. I was just about to celebrate how the hormones was working, but now I can't remember. Stasha. I know when I see her email, I can see her face. I know what y'all look like. I do. I want to say, Donovan, help me out. Your wife sent me an email months ago and basically was like, look, if I was licensed in your state, this is what I would do. But she basically gave me a roadmap to normal. And thank you. Okay, there it is. And I followed it. And it's been working. But and the reason why I'm hot, y'all, I got my coffee on the it's 130 degrees emanating from here. So it's not a flash, okay? It's a legitimate reason why there's heat coming this way. So anyway, Wednesday, I went MIA because I said, look, I'm gonna finally break down and get this chemical peel to deal with the last little bit of hyperpigmentation. There's nothing to be ashamed about. Like, I'm getting old and it's a challenge, okay? And so I did that, and I was terrified because I said, Lord, if they burn my face off, what am I gonna do? Right? What am I gonna do? Well, technically, they did burn my face off, but it was done on purpose, meaning the way this VI peel works is you get it, and like the first day nothing happens, and then kind of like the second day nothing happens, and then by day 3 you start shedding your face like a snake. And that is essentially what happened. And it was itchy and it was uncomfortable and I looked crazy. but it was so worth it. Yesterday, I said, look, I can't take it no more. Whatever skin is left on my chin or my forehead, they just gonna have to see it. And I recorded a video yesterday. And yes, it was the first day I put some makeup on, and it kind of worked out. So if you saw yesterday's video and you keep seeing like this little thing right here and stuff around my forehead, that was snake skin. It was just my skin that was left, and it's okay. It's okay because the video, look, the show must go on. And so that's why I was MIA, but I'm back in the saddle. And tonight's live stream, you guys, I wanted to get back to discussing politics. I spent a considerable amount of time in the month of July, the beginning of August. We were talking about the Nolan Wells case. We were talking about Ben Crump and all of his, shenanigans with the race hustling and the race baiting. And I'm not saying that I'm done with that topic. But what I want to do tonight is I want to turn our attention to Chicago. As you guys know, I am a homeschooling mama, and so being an education advocate in terms of freedom of choice is something that's near and dear to me. But tonight's topic, the reason why I want to set my sights on Chicago with Brandon Johnson is because tonight's topic has a lot to do with more than just education. It has a lot to do with the open border that Joe Biden left us, right? Where he sent out the bat signal and told the illegals to come here. And then it centers around Brandon Johnson because, as you know, he's a melanated minded Marxist Negro that is running a major municipality. And he was team of the illegal immigrant. I'm talking, he took resources from local Chicagoans and rolled out the red carpet for the illegals. Well, another reason why we're going to talk about him is not only did he do that, but now, unfortunately, Chicago residents, particularly the teachers, you were getting what you voted for because you thought that because Brandon was an educator and he was going to always have the best interests of the teachers in mind. Well, he kind of is in bed with the teachers unions, but I hope you guys understand that the Marxist agenda, there's always going to be one group that trumps the other. Like, no, everybody's not going to get what they want, right? So the Marxist does this sleight of hand where they make you think that you are the most important pawn on their chessboard, but at the end of the day, you're not. And so now we unfortunately have to have a discussion about the educators up in Chicago who found out the hard way. Like, they now know that fat meat is greasy because many of them are Black and they've now been given the boot in lieu of teachers who happen to be bilingual. Now, I'm not saying that Black teachers cannot, be proficient in more than one language, but typically educators who are bilingual, i.e. English and Spanish, don't tend to be Black. I mean, I know enough Spanish to be dangerous, right? Because I'm from the Bronx and I grew up around Hispanic. So, like what I put on the thumbnail, como está, like I wrote that, but that doesn't make me bilingual. What voters in Chicago, particularly teachers, are now realizing is that the policies that this man pushed and advocated for are leaving them high and dry. And it appears again that there's a demographic, a group that has been prioritized over and above the educators and the Blacks in general. And once again, it seems to be the illegals. And I'm going to demonstrate why I say that. So the first thing we need to do is take a look. I want to share my screen. And I want y'all to look at this X post that I came across that happened to be the inspiration for tonight's show. But you know what? No, I had another announcement or two, but I'll tell y'all like mid-show because y'all like get into the content. We ain't got time for all this talking. So this post is from Austin Berg, and it says new. Chicago's Frederick Douglass Academy High School has 47 classrooms built to serve 1,008 kids, but only 27 are enrolled there. Now, we could just stop the show right there because you could just say, well, what you mean? How do you have a school that has 47 classrooms in it, and this school is designed to service over 1,000 children, but only 27 kids are enrolled? What a waste of space. It's interesting to me that the left is always talking about we need to put more money in education, more money in education. And what we're realizing is that education, as we know it in America, the public government education system, it is just a system designed to sop up money and not be a good steward over that money. And it is wasteful spending, because what you're about to discover is the amount of money that's spent to educate these children per child. How is it that these children are graduating high school and they still can't read? Right? Think about how much money the city of Baltimore spends per student. Think about, and then this money doesn't just manifest or grow on trees. This is taxpayer money. This is property tax revenue that you have to pay a portion of your property taxes to go to the school system. And this is where your money is just an abyss of nothingness with no return on investment, but you don't even have a choice. You are forced to work and slave and toil to pay these taxes, because if you don't, you will lose your property. Let me continue. It says, and the school, so not only are there only 27 students enrolled in this big edifice of a school, but the school only employs 28 full-time staff. So now let's just, for giggles, let's assume these full-time staff were all educators. Technically, that's one teacher per student. So that means your student teacher ratio is literally 1-to-1, all things considered. Now, I'm not saying that's the case here, but think about it. I am a home educator. I've been homeschooling my children since they started school. We're about to graduate one, and then I got 3 more right after that. It's 1 of me and 4 of them. It doesn't get more personalized than the level of educational instruction I can give my own children. Based on the numbers here, if all 28 full-time staff were educators, like teachers, if you only have 27 students enrolled, pretty much every student should have their own teacher, or at minimum, 1 teacher for every 2 students. Surely the children would be able to exceed the academic basic standards with those numbers. No, that's not the case. At a 3% utilization, it is the emptiest big city school in the country, according to Chicago Policy Center research. Few more facts about this school here at Frederick Douglass. 100% of seniors are categorized as chronically absent, meaning they miss 10% or more of school days. Basically, the graduating class, if that's what you want to call it, they don't show up. Okay, they're like, no, we're done with school. We don't come. Okay, 100%, not 10%, 80%, 100% are categorized as chronically absent. They show up when they feel like it. No 11th grader could read or do math at grade level in school year 2023-2024. You can't blame this on COVID. If you are a junior as of 2023-2024 and you can't read at grade level, even if you experience loss of learning due to COVID 3 years prior or 4 years prior, that, like, if you're in the 11th grade and you can't read or do math at grade level, there's some other deficiencies going on here that started well before this school year did. The school costs $93,000 per student as of school year 2023-2024. In a school district where 1/3 of school buildings sit at least half empty, Douglass illustrates the consequences of poor facilities planning, fewer opportunities for students, and higher costs for taxpayers. Look at this school, y'all. The emptiest big city school in the nation. Now, riddle me this. Some of y'all might be asking, why do they have a school of this size that's designed to, first of all, who paid for this school? And if the school is designed to accommodate over 1,000 students and it's only 27 of them enrolled, how does this happen? I will tell you how this happens. This is leftism at work. This is what progressive Democrat policies are designed to do. Be incredibly inefficient, right? A policy that doesn't work, a program that services and helps no one, but it spends your money. So at your expense, stupid decisions like this are made, and at the end of the day, who is this helping? Think about all of the money that has been sunk into this building to service 27 students. I mean, big government has never been known to be efficient or to do anything well. And see, people got mad when I celebrated Donald Trump's decision to abolish the Department of Education. See, what the brain dead morons in the back who like to come into this chat because they don't understand the way the world works, they got mad when they learned that Donald Trump wanted to abolish the Department of Education, and they heard, like he said that, but this is what they heard. Donald Trump doesn't want children to be educated. Like they won't even be able to go to school. That's what they heard, not understanding that the Department of Education is a modern construct. Prior to the formation of the Department of Education, education was run and managed by the states. The federal government did not get involved. Each local municipality was responsible. They managed their own budget. They didn't have to get, any sort of direction in terms of curriculum or how resources were spent from the federal government. There was no uniform. We're going to teach this in the schools. It was always at the state level. And prior to the formation of the Department of Education, students performed better. They were reading better. Our Americans were smarter. But once you federalize something and the federal government gets involved and then they start determining, okay, well, based on, what the priority becomes, what the teachers union wants and not what the students need. So education decisions, curriculum choices, all of that is predicated not based on what do the students in this local municipality need, but rather the teachers unions are like, well, is my consulting company going to get paid? Because, we spent all this time working on this curriculum and we want this curriculum in every single school. And if you put our curriculum in your school, wink, wink, the teachers union in turn will donate to your political campaign. This is the quid pro quo and the way it works, to where academics takes a back seat, children are at the bottom, all of the money is coming in being spent per child, but at the end of the day, how much of that money is actually spent on educating a child? If you gave me $93,000 per kid, listen, I ain't even gonna sit here and lie to you. Like it does not cost that much to educate a single pupil. It just doesn't. But this is what happens when big government gets involved and leftist progressive policies are allowed to run amok unchecked. You get inefficiency like this. So there's a video that I want to show you guys as soon as I find out where it is. Where did I put it? Oh, I know where it is. Hold on a second. I downloaded it. Here we go. So let's take a look at this clip first.
The school, if the school doesn't need, 3 fourth grade classrooms, they only need 2.
CPS says many of the laid off teachers will likely be rehired, something CTU disputes.
Unfortunately, when our teachers are laid off, a lot of them leave our district because people need job security. And not having that job security and instability causes them to leave the profession.
The budget also calls for a mid-year spending freeze, no funding for assistant principals at schools with enrollment under 250 students, and 162 layoffs at the district central office which were made public earlier this week. But the budget is not all about cuts. CPS plans to increase funding for bilingual and special education educators.
The budget that we have presented is one that does its absolute best to address the very diverse needs of our students. And so we center this budget around the students and the needs that they have in this given moment.
Ha ha ha. I love the way progressives are Weasley with words, don't you guys? I mean, if you really listen to what they're saying, you really have to read between the lines to figure out what are they trying to say. So I wanted to show you guys that clip because basically this was a news clip that was announcing that Chicago Public Schools, they're in a serious deficit. Like all of the things and the bells and whistles that Brandon Johnson promised all his educational friends, yeah, he can't make good on none of those promises because he doesn't have the money. Him broke. Him don't have it. And so the district plans to close because they're making a lot of cuts because there's a $732 million deficit. That's how much they don't have. And so teachers are being laid off, many of those which are Black American teachers that were friends of the campaign, who campaigned and voted for Brandon Johnson because he said, I'm going to give y'all raises and I'm going to give y'all this and I'm going to give y'all that. And they said, yay, Brandon Johnson. And none of that happened, right? Like, Brandon has known for about a year that he wrote a check that he couldn't cash, and he's been trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. Is JB Pritzker gonna bail me out? Like I promised the teachers this money, but I don't have the money. You know why? Because I was too busy. Courting the illegals. Yeah, we about to get into that part. So before we get to that part, though, there's a spending freeze, meaning we can't spend any money. If your school has less than what I think they said 200 some odd students enrolled, we can't give you a dime. We are on a freeze. Not only that, they are laying off 162 people at the administrative district level. That's a lot of people. But remember when I said that Brandon Johnson he made these promises to these educators, and because of that, he had the full, total, and complete support of the teachers. Well, now, because he can't make good on that promise, teachers are upset, and we're going to hear from a particular teacher that feels some sort of kind of way. But before we get to that, did y'all notice in the news story, they said, yes, this is bad, but it's not all bad, right? This is not all about cuts. What did they say? The budget miraculously has room to hire bilingual teachers and to make sure that money is allocated for the bilingual people and the special ed students. I said, well, look at that. He did all of that courting of the illegals and let all them illegals in. And now, this is my political theory. Because Brandon Johnson's approval rating is so bad and he already knows the Blacks are done with him, he's hoping that all of those illegals that he let in and gave them the SNAP, gave them the Section 8, cleared out whole schools. Well, no, he didn't clear them out. Schools that were just sat empty to house all these migrants. He's hoping that maybe he can curry some favor with the illegals. And if they find out that, look at all the accommodations they're making for us, like they know we don't speak no English, right? They know these people don't speak English, but isn't it interesting that he can find the money to sink into the resource, which is the educational resource, i.e. a teacher that is bilingual. So what does that mean? If English is your first language, which it should be if you live here in America and you are an American citizen, and you don't know Spanish as a second language, if you're an educator, that means like the job that you would normally compete for, you're out the running for, and someone that may have less tenure than you, but they also speak Spanish, they have more job security than you do. Why is that? Like I said, He's made promises to these illegals, and he has made a decision. I have to prioritize the illegals over the blacks because the blacks already mad with me over the property tax situation anyway, and all the other reasons why they're already mad with me. I'm going to hedge my bets, and we're going to do this for the illegals and what is it? The special educational students, which technically, based on the academic performance of most of these students should qualify for special ed, at least in my day, right? Like if you couldn't read or write at grade level, or if you were a junior and you were still reading and speaking like a fourth grader, we would say you were special ed. I don't know. I don't even know what the criteria is now, but in my day, most of these juniors that I just talked about would be considered short bus special ed kids. I'm just saying. They found room. Based on what this woman said, we are committed to centering our budget around diverse needs. But notice diverse, what that means. Diverse means the bilinguals, the illegals who now need educational support. Forget about the little black kids. Taquayshawn they don't care if Taquayshawn don't know how to read or write or do math at grade level. Right now, they want little Pablo and they want little Consuela to be the priority now. That is where their loyalty lies. And I know a lot of you are like, April, why are you trying to pit the blacks against the illegals? I'm sorry, that's not me. This is what happened when your former president, Joe Biden, opened up the border and told them to come here. When Kamala was like, yes, you guys can come. And then she had to backtrack like, the border's closed, don't come. It was too late. They rolled out the red carpet to welcome these people here, and now they are obligated to educate these children, and they're doing so now at the expense of your students and at your job as a teacher. Okay? Y'all got to look at this clip, because this is when the mess hit the fan, and I believe a lot of black educators, black leftists and progressives up in Chicago who have not, they don't have the discernment to see that this man is he's a whole clown. And he's the worst thing that could have ever happened to Chicago. But they voted for him. Y'all thought Lori Lightfoot was bad. This man is twice the son of hell as Lori Lightfoot was. He is infinitely worse. But what makes him so bad is he is thoroughly committed to his bad ideas. He is such a Marxist and a communist through and through, in my opinion, that he believes his BS. He is high off his own supply. Like, he will explain defunding the police and reimagining police, and he thinks this makes sense to him. This budget deficit and giving the money to illegals, and now he don't have the money to make good on the promises. Socialism and Marxism and a whole communist framework never works. But to get black people to understand that, it's almost like they have to experience it in real time to say, oh, snap. This was a scam. We did get hustled. This man lied to us. And I don't understand why you didn't get it, because you have history that you can learn from to demonstrate that, you know what, this hasn't worked anywhere it's ever been tried. Why would I believe that it's going to work now? So take a listen to this clip. This is called when a person experiences cognitive dissonance and they're still grappling and struggling with the reality of their decision to vote blue no matter who. Listen to this clip.
My name is Iris Moore. I'm from Austin College Career Academy. I went from a seeker, I did my student teaching, and now I'm a second-year teacher up until I got a letter, an email stating that I no longer had my position. Every year I'm nervous about losing my position. And I think it's very unfair considering that I had started a cheerleader team and this was hard. I broke down in front of my cheerleaders just to tell them that I was no longer employed. When you build a community with your students and then you have to disappoint them and see their faces when you tell them that you no longer return it, they lose their trust within you. I won't let them down because CPS has let me down. CPS always had these programs about residential teachers coming in. How you want to build a teacher up to just snatch their position because you lost money? And that's not fair. This is my livelihood. I feel an educator is the most important job. We are the reason you are the state representative, the senator, a part of Congress. It's because of an educator that inspired you in some shape, form, or fashion. Start allocating the money the proper way, proper resources for people.
Okay. All right. I highlighted this story. This is very sad, and I have empathy, and I can balance empathy with truth. So bear with me as I demonstrate that I understand her frustration. And no one likes living the anxiety of not knowing if today is your last day, if you're gonna lose your job. Like, I've got friends, whether it was people who work for TSA or people who are in other positions that at one point used to be one of the most stable jobs in the country. Like, to be a teacher, if you weren't safe, nobody was safe. Teachers used to be one of the most recession-proof, safe careers out there, because at the end of the day, you always knew children have to be educated, and good teachers are in high demand, right? Well, that is no longer the case, and I feel bad that this woman has to live on edge, the constant anxiety of wondering if you're going to get cut now or get cut later. The frustration, like she said, this is my livelihood. And I had to go to my cheerleaders and explain to them that I'm not coming back due to cuts. I can empathize with her, and in the same breath, explain to her that her anger and her frustration is misplaced. This is not a CPS issue. This is a Democrat issue. And the reason why this is a Democrat issue is because Democrats are notorious for not properly allocating resources properly. The very last thing she said was, why won't you allocate the money in a proper way so that this doesn't happen? Well, I can answer that. Democrats like to make promises that they cannot keep. They're never interested in balancing a budget. But what they do is they dangle a juicy carrot in front of you and say, if you vote for us, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, and we'll give you all the riches in the world if you just bow down and worship us. Right? Sound familiar? The only problem with that is their math never maths. They can never explain and articulate how they're going to pay for something without raising your taxes. They have no experience in what it means to generate revenue outside of a tax base, meaning they don't know how to attract industry, right? They don't know how to make their communities pleasing and pleasant and attractive to where people want to come and invest. They don't have a concept of that. Give me one quick second, you guys. No. What am I doing? I was going to do something. I had a brain fart. Sorry. They don't know how to balance a budget, to infuse capital without all they know is we spend more of your money. We don't steward or shepherd it well. And because we already know that Democrat voters are not going to hold us accountable, that we'll just get reelected and we'll stay in a deficit. We'll stay in a deficit. They don't solve problems. To be a good Democrat, failure it's part of the package. It's part of the job description. As long as you remain a perpetual failure as a Democrat politician, you always have a problem to campaign on so that people will vote for you. And I don't understand why Democrat voters haven't figured this out yet. But no worries. I ain't from the government, but I am here to help. Listening to this woman explain and talk about how hurtful this was for her, the problem is she has a fundamental misunderstanding, thinking that this is a Chicago public school problem. No, this is a progressive Democrat politician problem, because they all think this way. They all make promises that they can't keep. None of them know how to balance a budget well, or they know how to spend. They don't know how to save or conserve or raise money. On top of the fact, this woman has gone through all of these things to get these credentials and then to teach, only to find out that they got to be like, how do you mess things up so bad that one of the most secure professions in the country, if you decide to be a teacher, that now your job is at risk because you are in a budget deficit that's so bad that the only way to ameliorate and correct it is you got to lay teachers off, but somehow you found money to invest in the bilingual students, meaning, okay, so instead of putting students first and then teachers first, you put the needs of all those illegal aliens that you let into your city first, because you're a sanctuary city and that's where your commitment lies. Do you see how the priorities of the progressive politician are so out of order that they don't give a darn about you? They don't care that you got to go and cry to your cheerleaders and say you're not coming back. They don't care. Brandon Johnson made a lot of promises to all of his educational cronies, and he can't make good on those promises. The best he could do is carve out some money for educators who are bilingual, who are going to want to teach some Spanish kids English. Because, hear me clearly, I don't even believe they're interested in really teaching them English. I think they want to educate these children in their native language, which prevents them from assimilating as Americans, because the progressive politician is anti-American. So anything that's going to naturalize and assimilate these children of immigrants into an American way of life, they're not going to do that. So they need you to be bilingual so you can communicate with the Spanish speakers, but it ain't to teach them English. In my opinion, that's what I believe. It would go against the whole Marxist framework. They hate America. So this woman has explained how she feels, and I hate to break it to her. This is not a CPS problem. This is a Democrat problem that is being rinsed and repeated in other local municipalities, and your cries are falling on deaf ears, unfortunately. Got another clip I want you to see. Now, y'all, when you hear this clip, you're going to be like, I know you're lying. How many times, the reason why I want to show this clip is because how many times have y'all heard me talk about how the government educational system, it is all designed to do a myriad of things, but one of them is to be anti-God, anti-Christian, also anti-family, pro-feminist, pro-LGBTQ. Well, now we have evidence from an educator's mouth that affirms that not only are these teachers' unions absolutely political activists, but they are actively working against the very foundation of what we believe needs to happen, particularly in the Black community, to restore some sort of structure and order to help the Black community flourish. I want you to listen very carefully to what this woman is about to say, and it's going to shock the socks off of you. Listen to this. Oh, disclaimer, I turned his audio up as loud as I could. It just is what it is. Do your best to listen. Turn your phone up.
You say you're not a political organization. Now, granted, they're conservative groups that have put this out, but I mean, there was one study that showed 80% of your spending is on political activity. You're a political party.
Our activity in this union is to secure contracts that provide smaller classes all across the city with limits for the first time ever. Our political activity is to ensure that Black students have a success plan in order to undo the harm of years of marginal educational opportunities. Our political activity is to make sure that our lowest wage workers, Black women who live on the south and west sides of Chicago, have a wage in which they can pay their rent, they can go to the grocery store, and that they can maintain a standard of living. Our political work is to ensure that women have the ability to sustain life without a husband.
Flag on the play.
Do I need to play it again? I hope you heard that. When I heard this, I said, oh my goodness. This heifer said it out loud. She said it out loud, looking in the camera with a level of confidence and assurance that I had to play it 3 times to be like, she really did say what I thought she said. I'm going to play it again. I ain't going to play it from the beginning. I'm going to just halfway.
To undo the harm of years of marginal educational opportunities. Our political activity is to make sure that our lowest wage workers, Black women who live on the south and west sides of Chicago, have a wage in which they can pay their rent, they can go to the grocery store, and that they can maintain a standard of living. Our political work is to ensure that women have the ability to sustain life without a husband.
Wow. Do y'all now see why I said that there is an active and concerted effort by a lot of these government political operatives to literally destroy the foundation of what we know has been proven to improve the outcomes and solve many of the problems that she mentioned before. So let's start with what she first said. She said, our political activity, mind you, she's a representative from the teachers union, okay? So this is the educational sector, a teachers union that gives money, that solicits money, and she actually said out loud that she is absolutely a political activist in her capacity as a representative for the teachers union. Here's what she said. She talked about the marginal results of Black children and how a lot of their political activism is centered around making sure that these Black children who've been the recipient of marginal educational outcomes, she's committed to improving that. Okay, stick a pin in that. The argument is that Black children, we need to undo so much of the marginal education of Black children. Now, I would argue that the educational results and outcomes of Black children, like, we didn't have these problems prior to the Department of Education. We didn't have these problems when Black children were being educated by their own, like before integration, even when we had older books. Like, I mean, I've got people in my family who went to all Black segregated schools, and they went on to, and I'm talking about in the 50s and the 60s, went on to college and university and had great lives despite segregation. All of their teachers were Black. Most of their teachers were Black and male. And there was a level in academic standard of excellence that was expected. It was like, it doesn't matter that we're poor and we've got secondhand books. You are expected to learn. You are expected to come here, say yes, sir, no, sir. Your clothes are to be neat. You may not have a lot. If all you have is one pair of shoes, a pair of slacks, and one shirt, you were expected to wash that one pair of shoes. I mean, make sure that one pair of shoes was shined, your pants were ironed, and that your clothes were neat, even if it was all you had. So do not tell me this is a money problem as to why our children are experiencing adverse academic outcomes. This is a culture problem, not an economics problem, but I digress. But she talked about the political activism and how it was centering on correcting that. Well, you're failing at that. You're failing at that because I don't see the outcomes showing improved academic performance from Black children that are in the public government education system. I just told you, most of them cannot read or write at grade level. A school right there in Chicago is virtually empty with 27 students enrolled in a school that's designed to hold 1,000. The city is operating at a $732 million deficit, so much so that they have to lay educators off. But here's a representative from the teachers union talking about what their political activism centers on. Okay, so that was the first thing, Black success in marginal educational outcomes. Then she said, our political activism is focused on low-wage workers who are female to make sure that they can pay their rent and live, have a basic standard of living. And I said, okay, on the surface, that sounds nice. It does. I understand that in 2026, we do have a whole lot of women who are unmarried and they are single and having a career prospect that they can survive off of from a lower wage. I can see that why that would be appealing. But to me, this reeks of feminism. And the next thing she says after this proved the point. Why is a educational activist focused on the economic outcomes of low-wage Black women? Like, how do those two things relate to each other? I don't believe they do. But Marxism and feminist womanist ideology is rooted in we need to create a world and environment where women don't need men. Why is the educational sector interested in ensuring that women can be low-wage workers and somehow manage to live life without the prospect of even needing a husband? She said it next. She said, our political activism is focused on ensuring that women can sustain a life without a husband. I said, wow. They really do hate men. They really do want to erase men. Forget the fact that these women probably have children. So if you are centering your political activism as an educator to make sure that women can sustain life without a husband, what about the children of these women who may used to have a husband and be married to that man? Or what about the children's father? You want to make it so you can create an environment where a man is not necessary. That's wicked. That is so wicked because this is an educator speaking. If this is her political ideology and she believes this as a point of activism, you don't think that worldview is gonna spill out onto the children? That the young girls in the environment where her and educators like her have influence over those girls, you don't think those girls are gonna grow up believing, you don't need a man. A man is inconsequential. Like, what do you need a husband for? Don't tell me you're pro-Black if you're not. You can't be pro-Black and be anti-family. You cannot be pro-Black and be anti-husband. You cannot be pro-Black and have an adverse view of a heteronormative nuclear family, because that includes a husband. Like, I understand baby mama culture. I understand y'all are out here freezing your eggs because you've been on a pursuit of academic excellence at the expense of finding a man, marrying a man, starting a family. Like, for whatever reason, our women, we struggle with chewing bubble gum and walk. Like, we can't go to college, attract the attention of a guy, graduate, and get married. That's too much. No shade, but, well, I was going to say our white counterparts don't seem to struggle in that area, but sorry, my white friends, y'all are struggling in that area now too. You didn't used to have that problem, but now y'all are such rabid, flaming feminists that your men don't want you either, because you've become a whole headache. Just these universities are churning out a bunch of Karens. So now even white men are like, listen, we don't have control over our women either. So what we gonna do? Now, y'all are not as bad as the Blacks, but y'all are not too far behind. Watch yourself, because that is the test case of what happens to a community when your women become feminist minded and they abandon their men You find yourself beyond the rate of replacement because nobody's getting married. So that means you don't have families and people are not having children. You're going to find yourself in that same situation. This is where Marxism leads. It forces women to adopt this ideology. I know we're supposed to be talking about Brandon Johnson and him casting aside the black educators for the illegals. I'm going to tie it all together. I promise you, I am. This is all has to do with it's an ecosystem of an ideology that supports all of this. But let me finish my point before I lose it, because it's going. I feel it leaving. Oh gosh. Okay. What was I saying? Ideologically, if you can catechize and indoctrinate a generation of women to believe that it is good and right for society to be set up and established to where they don't have to have a husband, they don't need a husband to sustain a life, what do you think happens to such a society? It becomes anti-family. And then what do those women, you promise them a life that they'll be able to have to be able to sustain a life without a husband. But in the end, let me explain what really happens. You know who becomes the husband? The government.
Flag on the plate.
That's who becomes the husband. That is the trick of the enemy. That is the deception that is underlying all of this foolishness. If these people can convince women that our political activism centers around ensuring that women can sustain a life without a husband, what happens when they don't make good on that promise? What do those women end up doing? I can tell you, they end up relying on the government. The government becomes Big Daddy. The government ends up taking care of them, providing supplemental income for them to live because they made choices that didn't include humbling yourself, submitting yourself to a man, learning how to get along and cooperate for the sake of, yes, for the covenant. Okay, like I actually want to be married to my husband. I actually like him. We enjoy spending time together. But there is a secondary measure of grace that is provided and offered to me because I've learned to submit myself and humble myself. That means I have someone to look after me. I'm not getting any younger. Okay? You're going to need one another later in life. For example, I normally don't like talking about family business, but this is a good story. My husband's father and stepmother just came to visit with us. My father-in-law is 82. Wife is beautiful, love her to pieces, slightly younger. There's an age gap like me and my husband. They have been married well over 40-something years, maybe 50, close to 50 pretty soon. She was an educator her whole life. My father-in-law was an executive in the corporate sector, retired. If my father-in-law died today, my stepmother-in-law is going to be okay. Do you want to know why? Yes, she worked a job as unto the Lord. By the sweat of her brow, she's educated generations of children, and she's done it well. But she will never have to rely on the government because she had a husband who worked to ensure that he provides for her while she's alive and in death when he is gone. That is something that this generation of feminist women, they can't say that because their fallback plan is the government. So when you have a political activist saying, we're trying to center our political activism to ensure that women can sustain a life without a husband, that's not a flex. That is not a flex. That is the most anti-God, anti-Christian worldview I've ever heard. It is wholly secular. It's anti-man. It is anti-family. Why? Because we should not want to create a society where our women can live a life separate and distinct from our men, as if God did not create us male and female. Together he created he, them, male and woman. Now that doesn't mean that every woman is supposed to be hitched to a man. That is not the argument. Do not take an outlier or a marginal situation to make that the standard. We already know that the Apostle Paul has taught that the gift of singleness is a gift. And there are some people who God has endowed with that gift. Good for them. I'm not one of those women. I was designed to be with somebody. And so therefore, the life that I live today, God forbid if something happens to my husband, is so that I don't have to rely on the government. He has set it up and set up a way so that if in the event of his death, his minor children and his wife can sustain a life without the government stepping in and telling them, well, if you just, you come on, hang over with me, I put a little something, in the account, like a sugar daddy. Right? So now you out here pimping yourself to the government, hoping that the government's going to come in and swoop in and be the savior. No, it was never designed that way. Widows, from a biblical perspective, the church's role and responsibility is to care for the orphan and the widow, right? Now, I'm not saying the government can't have a supplemental role, but it can't be the primary role. It's never been designed that way. Whether you're talking in the first century church or before, widows were always provided for by in the event of the husband's death. The faith community came along and always made sure that the widows were taken care of. So this was the most diabolical clip that I've heard in a very long time. Not because she seems like this evil, wicked person, but the fact that she said this with a straight face as a point of conviction. These people believe this. You don't think this ideology is in your child's school? You really think the local public school that your child goes to is being taught that a heteronormative nuclear family is healthy and normal and righteous, and it should be something that they should pursue? You really think your children are hearing that? They're not. They're being told that we can reimagine families. There's all of these, configurations of families that are valid. What does this have to do with Brandon Johnson? Everything. Not only is Brandon Johnson putting Black educators, pushing them aside in lieu of making room in his deficient budget to make sure that bilingual teachers are taken care of. But all of this is a continuum, and it flows from his anti-God, anti-Christian, Marxist worldview. And for Black Democrats who could not see the forest through the trees, this is what you voted for. You asked for this. Anytime a politician comes to you talking, I'm going to give you free this and make sure the community got resources for that, and we're going to reimagine policing, and we want to make sure that we give the young people services, this is the stuff that you get, the fine print that you didn't read. The higher taxes, the soft on crime policies, all the illegal immigrants in your community siphoning your resources, taking your Black jobs. This is what you signed up for. Y'all don't sound happy about it. At least the Black educators don't. I hate to be the one that had to break it down and explain it to you, but I have been warning for 2 years about the Marxist infiltration and the smokeless war that we are currently fighting in this country. And y'all wasn't listening because y'all were too busy calling me an Uncle Tom. Talking about, you make that content, because, white people like it when you talk like that. Well, how do you like it when I talk like this? Now that you've seen the implications of your vote, it doesn't feel good. Now he's raised your property taxes. Yeah, he did that. There was no money to put into the educational system, into so many of those schools that were empty. Now you have this Frederick Douglass Institute that's supposed to be able to educate and house over 1,000 children, and it's 27 students in there. And out of the 27 students that are in there, out of all the seniors, they don't even show up for school. But somehow I'm the white supremacist. Let me look. White people don't have anything to do with this discussion. This is all you, Chicago. This is all you, Black Chicago, vote blue no matter who. You would die in the wool Democrat. Yeah, this is on you. For over 60 years, you have voted for these Democrats, and they've lorded over you like an overseer lords over a plantation. And as long as they scare you and say the white supremacy is coming and the racism is after you, and if you vote for us, we'll protect you, this is what you get. At some point, you've got to recognize that the big white boogeyman of white supremacy is nowhere in the room. We can turn off the lights. You can get in the bed under the cover, put the covers over your head. He still ain't coming. The white supremacist boogeyman that appears in your dreams is just that. It's a figment of your imagination. The boogeyman right there in the room is that Black Democrat politician, Brandon Johnson, and all of the Congressional Black Caucus, that whole boule class of Black folks that put you last, but they want you to put them first, as is when you go to the voting booth and you vote for them. Yes, they want you to put them first, but they've never put you first. All they do is take your money, take your resources, spend it on themselves, and then tell you that you need to be afraid of those boogeyman white supremacists. That Donald Trump in that White House, and Donald Trump is like, I ain't even over there. Nothing of what I'm doing right here is impacting you locally. Why y'all keep bringing my name up? It's because in true ethnic narcissistic fashion, the ethnic narcissist has to gaslight you, make you question reality. What your lived experience and what's really happening to you, that's not real. No, the ethnic narcissist will shape the narrative that they want you to believe is true. And all the while, they are serving themselves, manipulating you, not even behind the scenes. They just do it in broad daylight. They lie, they cheat, they steal your money. They do not, they're like a bunch of leeches. They do nothing to improve your outcomes, but they make you believe that you need them to flourish and be successful. It is the worst trauma bond I've ever seen. The Black community has a trauma bond to the Democrat Party. And it's the ethnic narcissist, that Black politician. He is the main one manipulating and pulling the strings. And you are trauma bonded to this party because you don't believe that you can stand on your own 2 feet and function in your freedom and do something different, because the promises of a better day is right around the corner. As long as they can promise you that a better day is right around the corner, as long as you keep voting for them, then you'll believe that, I know he be beating on me and cheating on me and stuff, but there was a point when the relationship was good, right? Just like in narcissism, that love bombing stage at the beginning, we'll call the civil rights apparatus of the 1960s, we're going to call that the love bombing stage, where it looked like on the surface, all of this new legislation was coming out where you were prioritized. Oh my goodness, we can sit next to white people on buses and we can go in the front of the restaurant and not in the back. This is the love bombing phase where they gave you the symbolism. Forget the fact you had your own restaurants and your own theaters and your own buses, and you could come and go and eat wherever you please. This was the symbolism over the substance, the love bombing. Let me just give them a little of this, make them feel as if, now, you're not inferior, but they made you believe that you were inferior and that if you didn't commingle with the white people that you were less than. When God had already spoken and said, you were made in the image of God. You are a man. God made you free. But see, you didn't believe it because the civil rights leaders of the 1960s is the ones who told you that you were inferior and made you march and walk around with signs around your neck that said, I am a man, like you some show pony. Oh yeah, y'all don't like this content, but I don't care. But let me explain to you the way the ethnic narcissism, how it works. They make you believe, they love bomb you in the beginning, right? So you got all this civil rights legislation passed. Forget the fact that the first civil rights legislation, we had several civil rights acts that came before the one with MLK. The Republican Party passed 2 civil rights pieces of legislation, but we could talk about that another show. What they did was they love bombed you with some symbolism to make you believe that they were for you. And then once they had you hooked, and as LBJ said, voting for the Democrats for the next 200 years, just like a bad narcissistic relationship, the love bombing ends, and the gaslighting, the manipulation, the triangulation, all of that continues for decades. They lie. They make promises. They spend your money. They play in your face. They appeal to the illegals and tell you, you got to vote blue no matter who. If you leave us, you don't know what it's like there, out there, and you vote for them Republicans. At least you stay with the abuser you know. You don't know what life is like over there. You vote for the Republicans. Mind you, the Republicans are like, y'all never voted for us. We don't run any of your communities. We don't run any of your districts. Yet your infrastructure is crumbling. That's not us. Your schools are horrible and your kids can't read. That's not us. The roads are bad. That's not us. You don't get school choice. That's not us. Remember, the Democrats got the teachers' unions on lock. The Republicans are like the new partner over there that's like, look, we're just over here minding our business. We're not even bothering you. But the ethnic narcissist makes you believe that if you leave me, you don't really know what's out there. So you stay and you take the abuse. You take all that gaslighting. And the gaslighting is where they point to everybody else. It's never them. With the ethnic narcissists, the Democrats, see, they're never the problem. It's always somebody else. They are unable to self-reflect. They are unable to see themselves rightly because they're ethnic narcissists. So when Brandon Johnson gets up in a press conference and he's asked a direct question, all he knows how to do, like the narcissist does, is deflect and bring up Trump. And Trump has nothing to do with the discussion as to why his schools are failing, why he's in a budget deficit, why he's got to lay off all of these beautiful Black teachers, but he got money in his budget to pay bilingual educators, right? So unless you Black and bilingual, that doesn't include you. This is the tactic of the ethnic narcissist by way of Marxist ideology. And if you don't get it now, you'll never get it. I tried to make it plain by comparing what the Democrats do to a relation as to being in a relationship with a narcissist. These people are malignant ethnic narcissists. Clip it, stamp it, do whatever you got to do with it. But that's my assessment. That's my assessment. So, somebody with AC going to do the syllable clap. That's what she really meant. Did I do it? I don't know if I did, but I don't know. I was on one. Let me grab these super chats. My apologies, you guys. Will Harris 1742. Thank you so much for the super chat. Johnson's ideas will make a preacher cuss. It should. Absolutely. His ideas are horrible. When I heard this educator say that our political activism centers around ensuring that women could sustain a life without a husband, I said, ooh, how wicked. Are we confused why? We should not be confused why our women, they are being indoctrinated from all fronts. They're getting this foolishness in the church. Now they're getting it from the teachers union. They're getting it from the culture. There is no cultural, social, or spiritual apparatus that is not indoctrinating and infecting women with this anti-God feminist agenda. And I'd be darned if I didn't smoke this out and I say, you know what? I've got to talk about this because this is wicked. And I hope people heard my heart. I am not saying that every woman is somehow less than or deficient if she's without a husband. If that's your takeaway, then one, you don't understand my heart and you don't understand the broader problem, and you're projecting whatever insecurities you have on the inside, you're projecting that onto me. That's not my problem. I am talking about we are in a cultural, this is a cultural triage situation because our women are not getting married. The Black family is not dying. The Black family is dead. And we are beyond the rate of replacement because of abortion and because of this feminist ideology that has categorized our women to believe that they don't need men, that they can sustain a life just fine without a husband, not recognizing that that husband is not just there to keep you warm at night. He's not just a bedfellow, but you need him to raise those children. We would not have all these teen takeovers if Taquayshawn got his body slammed by his daddy well before he decided to go out there and tear up some stuff in the street. That's a fact. Now, you don't have to like it, but the scriptures give the believer license to exercise parental authority using the rod of correction, not to provoke your children to wrath, but to drive the foolishness right out of them. Like, that's literally what the scriptures teach. So I don't have to worry about my sons being caught up in a teen takeover because their father will put his size 12 foot right up there behind if necessary, if they get out of line to remotely think they're going to do something like that. Like, it's just not going to happen. I don't need a government policy or a program or a boys and girls club to keep my kid occupied so that they don't raise hell out in the streets. Their father is the boys and girls club. Their father is the program. He is the stopgap between them and the government so that the government doesn't have to enact the sword of justice because their father's doing it. This is really not that hard. It's really not. It's sad that I have to break it down and explain it this way because we are so far removed from God's order that for some of us, we like, well, I mean, you mean like it was bad what she said? Yes. Yes. The implications of what this woman said as a political activist, i.e., she represents the teachers union. And she made it clear that she's absolutely a political activist. This is my brother. He said, the prophet hath said, your breakthrough. Oh, my breakthrough came. My breakthrough came. Actually, I'm about to share with you guys the breakthrough that I had. Thank you so much for that super chat. Support our shields. He is very much familiar with the breakthrough, and I will share the breakthrough with you guys momentarily. Let me grab this other super chat. Red Cobblestone Road said, we have been saying the same thing all year. Check out his Sustainable School Act, making the schools a community hub. 70 schools get an extra $500,000. See, how many times do I have to tell you? Thank you so much for that super chat, Red Cobblestone Road. We do not share custody of our children with the government. But what Brandon Johnson is suggesting is that we share custody of our children with the government. Notice how they always refer to your children as our children. They usurp the parental authority that God has granted to you and you alone. And your children are part of the collective. There's that communistic language. We don't do it takes a village to raise a child. No, it doesn't. It takes two parents. God has never commissioned the village to raise children. That job is reserved for the parents. Ephesians 6 makes that clear. First, Paul outlines to the children first, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, for this is the first commandment with promise. It did not say after the government, children, obey your parents, or after you obey your parents, submit what the government says, even if it violates what your parents say. No, that is not the directive given through Ephesians 6. Children are to obey their parents. We don't share custody of our children with the government. And the moment you have educators disseminating such reckless and toxic ideology, our young girls latch on to that, and then they believe that that is the proper order and structure for a healthy society, that women should be able to sustain life without a husband. I believe that was the plan of the Marxists all along. Let's flood the world. Y'all ain't gonna like this, okay? Y'all about to start calling me a misogynist in a minute, but when have I ever cared? The plan all along was to flood the marketplace with so many women into the marketplace that now the jobs that men used to hold to be able to sustain and raise a family, they're now competing with the women for those jobs, which there's another effect of that. So now there's so many women in the workplace. The men are like, okay, I would normally compete for this job, but now I'm competing with her. So now this creates it bloats. Put it like this: you get payroll taxes because now you have women, as many women as men in the workplace. So now you get payroll taxes, not just from the man, but from a woman as well. To hire a woman, y'all ain't gonna like this, but we have needs, healthcare needs that far surpass what it costs to insure a man. Why? A man doesn't need maternity leave. Now you can grant him maternity leave, but it's not like if he don't go on maternity leave, it's gonna be a problem. He's not incubating a human. We are. Women have maternity leave. They have more doctor's appointments because of the pregnancy, and then the doctor's appointments and things like that. It costs so much more to hire a woman than it does a man. So take that into consideration with all of the women flooding the workplace, the increased healthcare costs for employing these women, the competition that it creates for male-centered, male-dominated jobs. Now those jobs, how is a man supposed to be able to protect and provide for a wife to stay home when all of the women don't even want to be home no more? They want to be out competing with the man for the same job. Y'all ain't think about that, did you? I'm just saying. This has another implication. It creates, think about the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. The average woman, I'm talking about, okay, she's a 5, maybe a 6 or a 7, did not expect a man to make 6 figures just to bag her. And when I say bag, I mean like secure her, not like in the physical sense. Maybe that was the wrong choice of words. Okay, let's
flag on the plate.
I didn't mean it that way, but think about it. 50s, 60s, when my mother was in the marketplace for a man, he was not expected to be able to give her a life that she had never lived or even seen on TV. Okay, he just didn't. He didn't have to put her in furs. He didn't have to buy her a luxury car. He didn't need to put her in a 5,000 square foot house. It was like if y'all had an apartment with a bathroom, everybody was grateful, right? But now a man is expected to provide, in the sense, it's not the basics that would be considered in an American, just a regular American life. That's no longer good enough because the appetite of women have changed. You got social media out here making us think, oh, well, we together combined have to make at least $300,000 for somebody to be happy, if I don't get a luxury car, like, are you really providing? If you can't pay, for my $2,000 lace front, I don't even know what we're out here doing. If you can't, if I can't get flued out, on a regular schedule, I can't, ride a donkey in Dubai, like what, or a camel. Did I say a donkey? A camel, like we're not really doing relationships right. Our women have become more covetous, more demanding. Now, they haven't elevated their profile at all, but, that's a different conversation for a different day. The point I'm making is it creates a very adverse environment for family dynamics because men are like, I will never be able to make enough to make this woman happy. Mind you, she can't provide half of this stuff for herself, but the expectation is if I can't do it, then I'm not good enough. So now we don't have men and women pair bonding, getting married, and then staying married long enough to have children. So that's one reason why we're beyond the rate of replacement, coupled with the fact all of the womb assassination, right? All of the women, because of the Democrat leftist policies, are willing to hire a medical hitman to assassinate their own seed in the womb, whether the man agrees or not. Your feelings, the fact that you knocked her up and you're like, I want to, do right by you and we'll figure it out. Let's get married. That incentive is gone. That decision is, you are left out of that decision. This Marxism, this cultural Marxism, it has so many different implications in so many different spheres of society that I don't think we realize how much it does impact things. But I wanted to cover it tonight from the perspective of Brandon Johnson and the Chicago public school system with the deficit and him pushing all of these Black teachers aside in lieu for the demographic that it was all about all along, which was them illegals. Yes, he's got to make sure, even if they don't vote for him, he has to secure election votes from this demographic for the greater good of the Democrat Socialists of America, for the Democrat Party at large. The people that fund his campaign, he owes, in my opinion, a lot of people who are like, look now, you are our puppet. You will do what we tell you to do. And we don't give a darn about these Black teachers. Their vote is inconsequential. We got to make sure the illegals have what they need. Elections do have consequences. Shout out to Tommy Rico. Thank you so much for that super chat. Socialism is a lazy man's ideology, sir. I love it. I love it. Listen, socialism is for suckers. Socialism is for people who are lazy. They don't have a healthy doctrine of work. They don't want to work by the sweat of their brow. The thought of good, honest, honorable work is repulsive to them. They would rather lay up and have the government take care of them because they have no initiative, no drive. They lose. They're a bunch of losers. I'm sorry. If you, well, I don't know any, listen. There's only one way to say this, okay? If you consider yourself a Democrat socialist or you believe in the tenets of socialism, you are a loser in my opinion. And you're lazy. There's only one way to say that. Okay, great. I got all the super chats. All right, let me make this an announcement, you guys. My breakthrough has come in the sense that while I was on my chemical peel reprieve, I really couldn't go out in the sun, and I was, I was kind of just stuck in the house, and I thought about making a video, a voiceover video, but I was like, voiceover is nice, but to really get the unshakable effect, you kind of got to experience it. You got to see it in a voiceover. It just would have been, I wouldn't have enjoyed that. So what I did was, the Lord has been dealing with me, and it's been a several years journey regarding guarding my heart. I have not always done a good job of guarding my heart, because just like most filthy, wretched sinners, you will tend to lean to your own understanding and allow voices that are not approved by God to either speak into your life or influence your life or manipulate your life in such a way that you find yourself far removed from God's will for your life, and you find yourself on a path doing whatever it is that you want to do and what you think is right. And so what happened during this time while I was peeling and itching, okay, because I was itching a lot, I wrote something that I want to share with you guys that I announced on the channel yesterday. And it was, I've dropped a new digital download called Guarding Your Hearts. And it is originally priced at $14.99, but I'm putting it on special for $9.99 for you to grab. This is something that you can grab and download immediately. And Guarding Your Heart is a digital Bible study that I put out that we're getting so many messages, whether it's from social media or from the news. Like, there are influences coming from all different directions. And everybody has something to say, but the problem is, do we have the discernment, and are we in tune to what the Lord wants from us via his word, to know how to decipher the right voices and how to guard our heart properly so that we are not led astray? And so guarding your heart and mind in a world of constant noise is a practical, scripture-centered digital download that I want to share with you guys, my audience. And it is designed to do a number of things, but one, to become more intentional. Did I say intentional? That's not a word. To become more intentional about what you allow to influence your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and your spiritual life. The biggest takeaway from this digital study is that the algorithm is not your pastor. Okay, I know sometimes we think it is, and YouTube is very good at identifying what it thinks you should be watching and what should be speaking into your life based on what you've previously watched and what it believes you want to see. But the algorithm is not your pastor. The algorithm should not be discipling you. Your favorite content creator, even if that's me, should not be discipling you. The word of God needs to be your objective standard of authority, and it needs to be the loudest voice in your life. And so I wrote this digital Bible study, and it's available for download. It is literally on sale for $9.99. I'm going to drop the link right now in the live chat. You can go grab it, sink into it. It's really designed. Let me give you guys a little sneak peek of it. So that, oh, no, I didn't mean to open that. Close. No, not you. This is what I wanted. Okay, here we go. Let me give you guys a little sneak peek of what to expect. Let me close you. What I did was I spent some time giving some scripture focuses, and then y'all, is when you study this, you're going to hear a lot of it in my voice. There are going to be things that you've either heard me say before, or you're like, I can literally hear her say that. I write that way so that it's relatable to you. But at the end of the day, like I said, the algorithm is not your pastor. The word of God is. No content creator's voice should be elevated above the objective, inerrant word of God. And so I wrote this with that in mind, for you to keep that on the forefront of your mind and guard your heart. You can avoid so many pitfalls when you do that. And so this is just a little sneak peek of what it looks like. And I had a lot of time on my hands. And so you have the unshakable information filter. Basically, before you consume, share, repeat, or keep meditating on something, slow down long enough to ask yourself this series of questions. And it's just beautifully laid out. And I want you guys to go and grab it before it goes away or up to $14.99. And that was one of the good things of not being able to come on camera. I could get this out, worked on my book a little bit, worked on some other things, and we're working as always. We're always working. So y'all go ahead and grab that. I think I've already done a pinned comment. I will put it in the description of this video when I exit the live stream. That's what I will do. What else? What other announcements? Oh, we are almost 100% funded for Slavery is a Choice. We are actively engaged in that. The last bit of shooting for that film will take place this weekend. And so I'm super excited about getting those final shots in. If we could just push us over the finish line, you guys, we're at like 27,000. We're trying to raise 30,000 to finish and make sure that we have no debt left after this film is out. Super excited about it. You've seen the reels. You've seen the posts. Look, the title was meant to be provocative and inflammatory, but the goal is for you to walk away with an understanding of what we mean when we say slavery is a choice. And I'm guaranteed you will end up agreeing at the end of this film. What else? That was all. That was all that I had prepared for you tonight. I had another topic, but I didn't really prepare that well, and I don't like knowing what I'm not talking. But if I don't know what I'm talking about, I don't like doing that. Anyway, outside of that, you guys, I am grateful for your love, your support, your prayers, your emails, even your criticism. I'm grateful for all of it, right? Everybody is not going to agree 100% with anybody all of the time. And that's what makes you different and unique and an image bearer created in the image of God. No one else has your fingerprint. No one else has your thoughts. It is fine for us to agree to disagree on whatever it is. But you keep coming back, whether you are challenged to view something from a different perspective, or whether you just like my jokes and think I'm funny. I don't know why you keep coming back, but I'm so glad that you do. So I love you guys with the love of the Lord. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.
The chronic victim can never be trusted, says Carl Jung.
Because I want you to know that I am more offended as an African-American woman than you will ever be.
The chronic victim can never be trusted.
The reason we could never be who we wanted and dreamed to be in is you kept your knee on our neck. We could run corporations and not hustle in the street, but you had your knee on our neck. We had creative skills. We could do whatever anybody else could do. But we couldn't get your knee off our neck.
The chronic victim can never be trusted.
It's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Stay on your knees. Stay on the plantation, boy. I've decided to be a free man. Slavery is a choice.